Hello everybody, my name is Eric D. Johnson, also known as BrightShine. We're out here in the city of Memphis, in the county sheriff in the state of Tennessee. Today is early Sunday morning, November the 3rd, 2019. The time 3:57 a.m. First, I thank all my family, my support for your continued courage and support. I'll continue to keep myself employed right here in the Memphis tri-state area. I'll continue to further my education in Monroe College online. Continue to pursue my social research and be administrative consultant in March. At the present time, take a break and go to school at a very near future. I will be going back to Monroe College online to continue to pursue my social research and be administrative consultant in March. I got the weekend off this weekend. I was off yesterday, but I had to go over there to that Health Tech Institute of Memphis. You know, like I've been saying, now that I earned all my hours in medical assistant, and I had to take a basic life support class, and got some kind of certification for that. But that's what I did yesterday at that school, and I'm still working on getting those other certifications, phlebotomy technician and EKG technician and electronic health records specialist. You understand? So those are the three certifications that I'm working on from Health Tech Institute member. But I'm gonna have to keep pushing on, because I know it was my intent to start earlier, but like I said, because I was running errands, I had to go to that class, and then after I left the class, started running errands, and took up a lot of my time. And then by the time I got to the house, by the time got finished doing all that, tried to give me a little rest, then get myself ready. So it kind of took a little of my time. But like I said, I got the weekend off, so I'm gonna come back tomorrow. It's my intent to do my video. I have enough, make enough time, to do the things I want to do. But matter of fact, while it's on my mind, do this first. Now, we've been continue to make everybody aware of this so-called devil worship stuff and the ignorance that you are doing so-called devil worship stuff. See, that's really one of the biggest problems that people have now. Like I've been saying, You know, stupid people. Talking about you want to worship the devil and all that. Well, you want to be punished like the devil. Well, there's only one place for you. I mean, you know, there's only one place for you. Just like the devil being punished by God in hell, there's only one place for you. It's hell. You're gonna die. You know what I mean? You know, that's not being negative, it's just being truthful. You call yourself want to worship the devil, there's no such thing. There's no such thing as worshiping the devil. Never has been, never will be. There's no such thing as putting ism on the end of Satan. There's no such thing as putting devil and worship together. There's no such thing. See, what you have to remind yourself, be reminded of in the Bible, even the Bible show you, God has never allowed the devil to lie to human beings. He ain't done it. We can go to the story about Adam and Eve, and when it's all said and done, Adam was punished, Eve was punished, the serpent was punished. A generation behind Adam and Eve were being held responsible. See, God does not allow that. See what it is? It's a lie. You be lying. You be lying. And lying is something that you don't get away with doing. You don't get away with lying. There's no such thing. Never has been, never will be. Now after this so-called blood gang, Crip gang out there in Los Angeles, see that where it came from them people on the East Coast. Up there in Chicago, Illinois, the history of the city of Chicago. There's no such thing, no blood gang, no Crip gang. Now you could take slang terms and call yourself trying to take it from people in Chicago. But nobody said put no gang in, no blood gang, no Crip gang in Chicago. Nobody said that. Nobody said that. It's nowhere. When you read the Nation of Lords, the history of Chicago, you don't see nowhere in the history of Chicago where no blood gang, no Crip gang. Talking about some bloodstone, some limestone, and then also you know, all this stuff about people wearing hats. You know, all this stuff. You know, people wearing Cincinnati red hats, and you know, people walking around with rattlesnakes on their hats. You know, the Arizona Diamondbacks, and like you some kind of blood, what they call them, black. Used to be the black cobra stones, and you know, all that stuff about some hats, man. You don't get see that came from the people on the East Coast. See, you be lying. And then them people on the East Coast, that devil worship stuff. That's what they would see. That's what you be calling yourself trying to do, and you don't get away with it, man. You be lying. There's no such thing worshiping the devil. See, you have to always point this stuff out. You have to make people, you know, you have to expose people. You know, if you see all this folk gang and, you know, folks and my people in Chicago, then what is all this nonsense you see out in California? You have to ask a question. And when you get the answer, see, there's no such thing, no bloodstone and no limestone in Chicago. So you can't never claim that the people in Chicago are telling you to do that. See, you be lying. And that's a very serious thing. Because see, when I'm out here on the street, it's all these people walking around claiming that they some kind of bloodstone and some kind of limestone. And I'm like, man, ain't nothing up in Chicago. So it came from the East Coast. And then you had to ask them, you know, what you talking about? See what I'm talking about? You see what I'm talking about? See, it ain't from Chicago. You got all the folk organizations and the My People organization. Then you see some mess out here on the street, all around in the United States, talking about some blood gangs, some Crip gang. Well, you know, no doggone well that during that period of time, back in the late '60s, in the early 1970s, wasn't no such thing, no blood gang, no Crip gang. See, you came later. Nobody in Chicago told you to do that. Nobody in Chicago had nothing to do with it. And see, that's important. See, that's an important fact to point out. And when you point that out, see, like I said, retaliate. Retaliate, because what you're saying is that them people on the East Coast, you telling these people in California, in Los Angeles, to go against the folks in my people. And everybody else in Chicago, and then everybody else from Chicago. See, the history of Chicago, see, this is why history is so important. I can't stress it enough. This is really why history is so important. Is when you study the history of America after the Civil War and after World War I, after World War II. See, we were going through a process of Chicago, the history of Chicago, and when you seen all these African Americans leave the South, leaving the South, going up north. See, this is really why it's so important. Nobody told you about no blood gang, no crip gang. Then you get into the history of Chicago about the Imperial chapters and the 14th Street clovers. That's really why history is so important. That's the reason why the history of Chicago is so important. It's very important. See, when you see all the African Americans after World War I, especially after World War II, even before even before the war ended, there was a lot of African Americans that drafted during World War II and went to the war. But then there was a lot of African American women, just like white women, got left behind and had to, go and work in these factories, producing weapons, in the factories for the war. Then World War II ended. And after World War II ended, you had all these African American men who came back from the war. And you already had all these African American, and then the automobile industry and all this industrialization in the North and all the poverty in the South. It was a lure to lure all these African Americans to the North. And you had all these African Americans move to Chicago from the South, from Mississippi, from Tennessee, from Arkansas, from Kentucky, from Missouri, from Texas, from Louisiana, from Alabama, then from the like Oklahoma and Kansas and Nebraska. Then you had all these states that are around Chicago, around it. But we talking about the South. African Americans moving from the South to the North. See, that's really why history is so important. And when they moved to the North, see, all that stuff about the devil and all that, see, everybody all see it's so important. Cause see, on the East Coast, they have a history. When you study the history of the so-called gang, according to history, the first gang, was in New York, the 40 Thieves. You had gang, according to the history, the first gang that was recognized in America as as an official gang was the 40 Thieves. And then you had these other gangs up there in the city of New York, the Five Pointers and the Fly Boys. What I'm talking about, gangs in New York. And so, like I said, that's the reason why history is so important. And then later on, as you, like we said, after World War II, you had all the African Americans move from the South to the North, like Chicago, Detroit, Indiana, moved to Minnesota, moved to Iowa, and from the South to Indiana. They left the South and moved up north. And when they moved up north, see, that would cause a problem in the city of Chicago. You had all these, white Americans and European Americans that were living in Chicago and didn't want African Americans living in the city of Chicago. So that's where the Imperial Chaplains and the 14th Street Clovers came from. And on the East Coast now, you had all this, like down in the South, Southeast, like Georgia, and the Southeast, was segregated and, part of the South and all this. But there's some that the people on the East Coast don't get away with is this line. Because see, over on the East Coast, see, it was always this, not just a gang, but devil worship. And now down in the South, now what you call devil worship and stuff, we know that a lot of white Americans be involved in stuff. It ain't just like African American or Afro-Asiatic, but a lot of white Americans, that devil worship stuff, and was teaching that stuff to African Americans. So when it comes to being up north, see, you had people from the East, like white Americans, living in Chicago, but they weren't originally from Chicago. See, it was white Americans that left the East Coast, like them Five Pointers and 40 Thieves and Flyboy. Some of the gangs from New York, they moved to Chicago. Them Jews, they moved to Chicago. And then you had African Americans who really just didn't have no education anyway. So how you gonna teach somebody something? You only listening to what the oppressor taught you. And so that's where a lot of that stuff came from. You don't put the blame on the African Americans. Because African people from Sub-Saharan Africa weren't coming over here because you had imperialism, in Africa. For a long time, the continent of Africa was under the European control. So up until the time they got independence, there wasn't no African people coming from Sub-Saharan Africa to America. So when it comes to this so-called devil worship, it was these white Americans that was, involved in that type of ignorance, and was teaching it to the African Americans. And this is the reason why when we talk about the Imperial Chaplains and the 14th Street Clovers, the history of Chicago for African Americans and people moving from the South to Chicago, and see that where it came from. And then later on in the history of Chicago, in the Nation of Lords, the Vice Lords, that the literature, the book that they wrote in the Nation of Lords, the Imperial Chaplains later became the Imperial Vice Lords, and the 14th Street Clovers, later on became the Insane Vice Lords. Then the Imperial Vice Lords and the Insane Vice Lords became the Imperial Insane Vice Lords. See, the Vice Lords, still today, but the Imperial Chaplains and the 14th Street Clovers, excuse me, they still really, still in existence. They became vice lords. In the history of Chicago, and then you had all these other organizations like the Egyptian Cobras. They later on came the Mickey Cobras, and at first, before they were the Mickey Cobra, they were the Black Cobra Stones, and then something happened with Mickey Caldwell, and then he was murdered. But see, that's important about the reason why people do the things they do. You understand? And why was it so important? You understand? For some of the men like Caldwell, Mickey Caldwell, and then some of his brothers were murdered, and then and things of that nature, you understand? But see, when we talk about devil worship, that's a serious thing, because when you talk about the blood gang, the Crip gang, to be honest with you, them people from the East Coast, see, they never told the people in Los Angeles that they were that they were worshiping the devil, and that the reason why you see a blood gang and a Crip gang is because of devil worship. And then talking about some bloodstone villains and some limestone, and talking about some black cobra stone still trying to, you're not supposed to be doing it. There's no reason. See, when you see people do the stupid stuff they do, and then when you ask them what's the reason for you doing it, they don't have no legitimate answer. You couldn't never say it's a reason for you to be walking around with some Cincinnati red hats and talking about some Arizona Diamondback hats and all this other junk you be trying to do with a hat. And just like we were talking about the boss pimps. See, when you see, the top 10 street gangs in Chicago, black, and then we ain't got to the Hispanic and whites, you know what I'm saying? But and then you hear somebody say something about the bluefin black disciples. See, the folks, that's like we've been talking about, the folks and the my peoples. See, that's what the boss pimps were. They were in the folk nation, and all this breaking up and splitting up. And so that's really why it's so important to expose this whole thing about worshiping the devil. Because first of all, the most important point to make is there is no such thing. It never has been. You be lying. You lying. There's no such thing as putting devil and worship together, or talking about you believe in the devil, or you talking about you got faith in the devil and you hope the devil. There's no such thing. Never. Sure. Never has been. There's no such thing as Satanism. Putting Satan and then putting ism on the end of Satan. And theistic Satanism and all the other junk you be making up. There's no such thing. You just be lying, making up stuff. Your imagination. You be imagining all this junk. Think you be on drugs. They remind me, when we talking about people using that, man, what you remind me of? It's just like in the first century. And how these people in the first century, the Catholic Church, you don't think them people using some kind of opium? Using that, man, making up all this junk they made up in the first century. They were making up a whole lot of lies, talking about paradise and all this Hades and all. You think them people know some drugs? But like I said, the history of Chicago, the history of America, history period is very important. Very important. The pre-13 colony history is important. When we talk about the pirates and piracy, devil worship, no such thing. But we know that the pirates and piracy, so-called devil worship, that's where it came. See, when you see Chicago and you see all the work that was done in Chicago, you understand, all the things that were done in Chicago, you couldn't never say that a bloodstone and a limestone, you could never say that that was right. And then talking about walking around with some Cincinnati red hats and some Arizona diamondback hats and all this junk about wearing some hats, turning your hat to the left and turning your hat to the right. And all that stuff to the back and all this. You see all that nonsense you be doing, you be lying. See, like I said, retaliate on the so-called blood gang and the crib gang. No such thing, no bloodstone and no limestone. Retaliate. Cause see them people on the East Coast, see this the wrong you be doing. See this the wrong that you be doing to so many people. And that you be lying. You be lying. And don't nobody have to take it, like I said, giving you a hard time. Giving you a hard time on the street, in the jail. See, nobody take that damn mess off you. You ain't nobody. See, those sororities and the fraternities, those so-called secret society, them old world secret society that came from the old world, then came over here. That's where the sorority and the fraternity came from. See, that's where a lot of these lies come from. That's where a lot of them lies come from, them old world secret society and them so-called sororities and fraternity be lying. They be lying. Niggas want to kill you. Ready to want to kill you. If you got the wrong opinion, you got the wrong opinion. Want to kill you. Now I don't just say I really want to kill you. Ain't no way in the world I believe you walking around and had a nerve to have this opinion like somebody. You understand? Gonna let you lie to them like that and then sit back and laugh about it. You know? Well, you got the wrong opinion. Now, now before I go to the Instagram, I want to make sure I give a reminder that when we be talking about Islam, you know, the people all over this earth, the Afro-Asiatic people, the Nilo-Saharan people, and the Niger-Congo people, and then all these European people and Asian people, you know, understand, Native American people, everybody got some kind of language that's been classified by the linguistic people, you know, and so on. So this is just a reminder before I go to the instrument. It's a reminder. Alright. Like I said, that was just a quick reminder that, like, when we be talking about Islam, and if you see some of the people, you see people in the Holy Bible, like for example, in the Old Testament, and they talk about the Perizzites and the Jebusites, the Girgasites, the Hittites. Then you hear the Hittites. Well, see, the Hittites, Indo-European, the Philistine, Indo-European, the rest of them people, the ones we just mentioned, the Jebusites and the Girgasites, Afro-Asiatic, the Hittites, Afro-Asiatic, the Canaanites, Afro-Asiatic, the Hebrews, Afro-Asiatic. Then you had the Amorites and the Midianites, the Moabites. See, a lot of them people were Afro-Asiatic. And when we be talking about Islam and the Egyptians, Afro-Asiatic. And see, when we be talking about, when you say Islam, Muslim, what they anti-submit to the will of God, and Muslim, one who submits their will to anti-submit, entitled to the will of God and all that. See, they made that stuff up in ancient times. See, people don't want to tell the truth; they lie, and that's what a lot of them old world secret society from Afro-Asiatic, they be lying. That Islam stuff did not come from Muhammad. It came from everything that you learned by God. See, in order for you to tell people something like that, there had to be a foundation. It had to be some, in the linguistics, when you be talking, you make it sound like you ain't learned how to talk up until the point of Muhammad. Then you start hearing about God. But see, that's the lie that you don't get away with telling. Because see, when you say that you heard about God prior to Muhammad, but see, it's some historical facts about how Afro-Asiatic people would go, would worship God, or whoever they call God. So don't say like Islam just started or Muslim just started. No, you be lying. And that's real. I want to remind the people, because people, Afro-Asian, people be saying things, and they talking about Muslim and Islam. So let's go to Instagram. And like I said before I start my intro, I'm still working on my music. Like I said, I did Fiend for the Green, and I'm working on, like I said, I did Fiend for the Green, and I'm working on that. I'm still working on that, as well as working on some more material. So when 2020 come around, let me go and do my Instagram. Hello everybody, my name is Eric D. Johnson, also known as BrightShine, right here in the city of Memphis, in the county chair in the state of Tennessee. Today is early Sunday morning, November the 3rd, 2019, time 4:20 a.m. First, I thank all my family, my support for your continued current support. Anti-gang. First, always give thanks to God for all the blessings and the guidance He provides us all with. Now let me say this. All that street slang stuff, gang and mob plus stirring, boss going through crook, hooligan, mac and player, pimp, whore, hustling, nigga, field nigga, house nigga, street slang. Merriam-Webster Third New International Dictionary, Oxford English Dictionary, give you a complete and total definition of the word, of any and every word, all that street slang. Then when it comes to music, street slang, hip and hop, rock and roll, swing, groove, jazz, blues, funk, doo-wop, bebop, street slang. When it comes to money, currency exchange, street slang, you can go to Quick Reference, Wikipedia, and we can find examples of street slang for money, currency exchange. For example, bucks, rack, stack, bands, bread, dough, scratch, loot, moolah, Benjamin dead presidents. When it comes to that so-called sorority and fraternity, don't let the sorority and fraternity mislead you. Don't be misled by the sorority and fraternity, because they be lying. They be calling themselves worshiping the devil. They be calling themselves worshiping the devil. And the United States Department of Justice, hazing is a crime. And the sorority and fraternity use hazing in their initiation rituals, committing a crime. They criminals. They commit crime on and off the campus. They use and abuse tobacco products. They indulge in gambling games. They use and abuse alcohol and drugs. They indulge in immoral activity. They indulge in sexual deviance and depravity. Don't let the sorority and fraternity mislead you. Look, all those persons who started, initiated the sorority and fraternity, them old world secret society, renounce them. Denounce the whole concept and idea of a sorority and fraternity, them old world secret society. Denounce it. Get out of the sorority and fraternity. Don't join the sorority and fraternity. Don't discourage others from being involved in the sorority and fraternity. Expose the sorority and fraternity and them old world secret society. The sorority and fraternity, they work and manage the businesses, companies, and corporations that they use and misuse the background check. They commit crimes against humanity, atrocities, violation of human rights and civil rights, inhumanity, genocide, ethnic cleansing, discrimination, and harassment. They pollute the air, ground, water, and noise pollution. They destroy the environment, nature, and wildlife. Don't be misled by the sorority and fraternity. That's the reason why that pre-13 colony history is so important. Harvard University, the oldest institute of higher learning in the United States, founded March 13, 1639, Cambridge, Massachusetts, William and Mary College, Williamsburg, Virginia, founded February 8, 1693, second oldest institute of higher learning here in the United States of America. Phi Beta Kappa Society, founded December 5, 1776, the College of William and Mary is recognized as the first Greek letter student society in North America. Alpha Delta Pi, first sorority, founded in 1851, Wesleyan College, Macon, Georgia, the first organization to adopt the word sorority with Gamma Phi Beta, established on November 11, 1874, Syracuse University in Syracuse, New York. Now, the first women's fraternity was at DuPont College, 18-something. There's the basis of the sorority fraternity, the old world secret society, like from Africa and Asia and from Europe. For example, the Eastern Star, the Freemason. They talk about Euclid, the Mathematician, lived in Alexandria, Egypt, 1390-1425, mentioned in the Holloway manuscript, the Reed's Born, the Cook manuscript. And the Dowling manuscript. And examples of them old world secret society, the Skull and Bone, Rosicrucian, the Son of the Living, Thug Society, Private Scion, the Ordo Templar Oriental, Knights of the Golden Eagle, the Wooden, the Ancient Arabic Order of the Nobles of the Mystic Shrine, the Improved Order of Redmond, the P.O. Sisterhood, the Eastern Star, the Freemason, the Elks, the Lower Order of Moose, the Bilderberg Group, the Ku Klux Klan, Knights of Matthias, Knights of Columbus, the Illuminati, Forest Society, the Remedial Order of the Golden Dawn, the Mystic Order of the Veil Prophets of the Enchanted Realm, United Order of the Golden Prophet, United Ancient Order of Druid National Grade, the Ancient Order of Urban Names, the Opus Dei, the Knights Templar, the Scottish Rite, and just a few. The Spanish Garduna, the Carbonara, the Black Hand. You say Mafia, that's Afro-Asiatic. You say Cosa Nostra, that's Latin. The Triad, the Yakuza, Sour, and just a few. history of Chicago, when we be talking about the history of Chicago, the history of America, see, that's the reason why it's so important. History is so important. We be talking about some doggone bloodstone and limestone, and out there in California, talking about some, what they walking around wearing some Cincinnati red hats and some Arizona Diamondback hat, talking about some type of black cobra or something, whatever but we know that Mickey Cobra, they not affiliated with them no more because of Mickey Caldwell. So whatever it is, you talking about some black cobra stone, that don't, not no more. The Mickey Cobra, no. See, this really, like I said, retaliate on that so-called blood gang, crib gang. Cause see them people from the East Coast, them East Coast bitches. That's who did it out there in California. Talking about some bloodstones, some limestone, man. Retaliate on the so-called blood gang, crib gang. Retaliate. Cause they be them East Coast bitches. But nobody in Chicago did nothing like that. The history of Chicago ain't do nothing like that. See, in the history of Chicago, the vice lord, see, when you talk about the history of Chicago after World War II, African Americans were leaving the South, going up north. We'll see the people on the East Coast. See, the history of America, the first gang, official gang that's been recognized, officially was the 40 Thieves. And they was up there in New York. Then you had these other gangs, what they call them, the Five Pointers, and was another, the Fly Boys, it was up there in New York. What they call the 5 Point District up there in New York. And then, when you talk about the Southeast, like Georgia and Florida and Maryland and Virginia, well, see, that's the East Coast. It might be the Southeast, but still it's the East Coast. And see, it's devil worship. It's so-called devil worship from the East Coast. See, them white Americans, African Americans were being oppressed. You couldn't learn anything, so you ain't know nothing. Period. Only thing you learned is what the oppressor taught you. See, and a lot of them 40 Thieves, 5 Pointers, Fly Boys, them white people from New York, they moved to Chicago. So by the time the African Americans moved to Chicago, you had all that. And when you talk about the African American move from the South to the North, going to the city of Chicago and Detroit and Indianapolis and Milwaukee and so on and so forth, Minnesota. See, a lot of them white Americans left the East Coast, Northeast, and moved to Chicago. And when you had all this discrimination in the city of Chicago, the Imperial Chaplains and the 14th Street Clovers, see, that's where a lot of that came from. But see, the vice lord was over at the juvenile detention center, and later on, see, the Imperial Chaplains, they became the Imperial Vice Lords, and the 14th Street Clover, they became the Insane Vice Lord, then it became the Imperial Insane Vice Lords. So in the history of Chicago, when you see the Imperial Insane Vice Lords, and then over there on the south side of Chicago, some guys whose families moved from the south, King David Barsdale, King Larry Hoover, and King Jeff Ford. Their families came from the south, from Mississippi. Came from Mississippi. They, you had people came from Tennessee, Arkansas, Missouri, Kentucky, Alabama, Louisiana, Texas, Oklahoma, Nebraska, Kansas. They went to Chicago. And see, when you talk about devil worship, See, them sororities and fraternities, see a lot of African Americans they were just listening to the white Americans because you was oppressed. You ain't had no education, so you wouldn't know about devil worship and Satanism. There's no such thing. You don't put ISM on the end of Satan and theistic Satan, all that mess. It's some made up lies. And putting devil and worship together, you can't do that. You see, a lot of African Americans didn't have no education, so they wouldn't know. And then, like we've been talking about some Cincinnati red hats and some Arizona Diamondback hats. See, that came from the East Coast. Them East Coast bitches. You're talking about a blood gang, a Crip gang, and talking about some bloodstone lines. Nowhere in the history of Chicago. They came from the East Coast bitches. It's devil worship. And for a person to be calling themselves a devil, it's only one place for you, man. Hell. You want to die with the devil. You want to be punished by God. Like the devil being punished by God, but there's only one place for you. Like I said, retaliate. I've been saying retaliate. There's no such thing, no East Coast bitches talking about you started a gang in Los Angeles and then gonna go against everybody in Chicago. See, everybody in Chicago, a lot of people in Chicago got family down here in the South. Down here. And then their family members got into gang wars and all that kind of stuff, and they got killed and, all that kind of stuff. Like I said, man, look, having a hard time. They ain't supposed to. Talking about some East Coast bitches, right? Having a hard time on the street, having a hard time in the jail, having a hard time. You don't get away with no talking about no damn devil worship. I know everybody know the time went back. So, that time of the year fall, time went back. Already, when it comes to my music and everything, back in 2014, late 2014, 2015, I did Fiend for the Green, and I'm still working on my music and everything. But what's it right? Okay. There's no such thing, no Cincinnati red hats and no Arizona Diamondback hats and And while I'm talking about them blood gang and crib gang, man, retaliate. The East Coast bitches, retaliate. Having a hard time talking some damn devil worship. Having a hard time on the street. Having a hard time in the jail. Retaliate. See, see, this is the history of Chicago. The history of Chicago, the history of America. You don't see no bloodstone, no limestone nowhere. You don't see no Arizona Diamondback hats, no Cincinnati Red hats nowhere. You don't see no blood gang, no crip gang nowhere in the history of Chicago. Not in the history of Chicago. See, that stuff comes from devil worship. Devil worship. Retaliate. Retaliate. See, these people talking about some devil worship, having a hard time on the street, having a hard time in the jail. This is the International Bill of Human Rights. And this is the Convention on Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. And this is the Declaration of the Rights of the Child. The United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child. This is the world's oldest human rights organization, Anti-Slavery International. This is the International Federation for Human Rights. And this is the world's oldest international conservation organization, BirdLife International. And this is Fauna and Flora International, was the world's first international wildlife conservation organization. This is the world's oldest global environmental organization, International Union for Conservation of Nature, and also the World Wildlife Fund. There's some more organizations. Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, Global Rights, Frontline Defenders, Human Rights Without Frontier, International Service for Human Rights. Conservation International, Wildlife Conservation Society, Conservation Fund, Legal Conservation Board, Earth Watch Institute, Conservancy Association, Earth Justice Conservation Volunteer, Wildlife Conservation Network, Endangered Wildlife Trust, Biodiversity Nature Conservancy Association, Rare Species Conservation Center, Wildlife Research and Conservation Trust, the Rainforest Trust, International Rainforest Conservation Organization, Rainforest Alliance, Rainforest Action Network. Biodiversity International, Earth Day Network, Environmental Defense Fund, Friends of the Earth, Friends of Nature, Greenpeace, the Nature Conservancy, Wildlife Conservation Society. Soil and Water Conservation, Clean Water Action, World Water Council, Marine Conservation Institute, Marine Conservation Alliance, Ocean Preservation Society, Ocean Society, Global Ocean Commission, the International Marine Life Alliance. They're trying to stop all the crimes that the sorority, the fraternity, the old world secret society that they be committing. Saul from Tarsus, the self-proclaimed Apostle Paul, a liar, a murderer, the devil. He wrote all those epistles in the New Testament. He was lying. See, the man-made religious organization, they used those epistles that Saul from Tarsus, the self-proclaimed Apostle Paul, wrote. And one of the verses they used, Romans chapter 16, verse 16, salute one another with the holy kiss, the church with the subject, yes, Christ salutes you. Another verse that the man-made religious organization used, that Saul from Tarsus, self-proclaimed Apostle Paul, wrote, 2 Thessalonians chapter 1, verse 4, so that we ourselves glory in you in the church with the subject, yes, O God, for your patient faith in all the persecution and tribulation that ye endure. It's a lie. Devil worship, that's a lie. Theistic Satanism, atheist Satanism, it's a lie. All that junk ain't no but a bunch of lies. Ain't no a bunch of lies. this is a list of place names of Native American origin in. That's the wrong one. No, there we go. List of place names of Native American origin in the United States. For example, state name: Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, Connecticut, Hawaii, Idaho, Illinois, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Massachusetts, Michigan, Minnesota, Mississippi, Missouri, Nebraska, New Mexico, North, South Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, Wisconsin, and Wyoming. Then scroll all the way down to where it says see also. You'll see a list of place names of indigenous origin in the Americas. See all that what we've been talking about, that devil worship stuff, piracy, the pirates. Now, the United States Department of Justice, the Office of Juvenile Justice links prevention, the Bureau of Justice International Gang Center Bulletin in its title, History of Street Gangs in the United States, written by Dr. by James C. Howland, Mr. John P. Moore. Now you can find that same information on the quick reference Wikipedia title Gangs in the United States. Now these are just a few of the free logo design websites you can go to make anti-gang logo. Now I'm gonna get ready to end my Instagram video so I can do my Periscope video. Do my Periscope video. But all that's talking about some devil worship and all that. Retaliate. See all that stuff talking about that's them East Coast bitches. That's them East Coast bitches. See all this talking about wearing some Cincinnati Reds hats and some Arizona Diamondback hat and all that junk. You be making up some Bloodstone villains and some limestone, man. The Blood Gang, the criminal, that's them East Coast bitches. Them East Coast bitches. Retaliate. Retaliate. Hard time on the street. Talking about some devil work, hard time in the jail. Having a hard time from this day forward. Ain't gonna never, ever. You gonna never get away with it. Never. No. You're gonna have a hard time on the street, have a hard time in the jail. Retaliate. I'm gonna do my Instagram video, then I'm gonna do my Periscope video. I just ended my Instagram videos, so now I'm doing my Periscope video. Hello everybody, my name is Eric D. Johnson, also known by BrightShine, living right here in the city of Memphis, in the county, sheriff, in the state of Tennessee. Today's date is early Sunday morning, November the 3rd, 2019. The time 5:18 a.m. First, I thank all my family support for your continuing encouragement support. It's what fall back, turn the clocks back. Turn the clock back 1 hour. Anti-gang. Anti-gang. Now these are just a few of the free logo design websites you can go to make anti-gang logo. Also remember these words: coercion, coerce, sexual coercion, psychological coercion, psychological manipulation, psychological abuse. Now, it's so-called devil worship. So-called devil worship. It's a lie. Everything about it is a lie. There's no such thing as devil and worship even being together. No such thing, no atheistic Satan, no theistic Satan. There's no such thing, no Satan and ism. There's no such thing as the devil. The devil is being punished by God. Now, if you some kind of devil worshiper claiming you some kind of, you need to be in the same place that the devil in hell being punished by God. Because you lying. All that occult stuff in the cult. You lying. You lying. That's what all that stuff, them East Coast bitches, talking about some blood gang and crip gang. That was them East Coast bitches. In the history of Chicago, no such thing. No such thing. Talking about some bloodstone building, some limestone. That was them East Coast bitches. In the history of Chicago, no such thing. See, in the history of Chicago, the history of America, the first gang in the history of America, the 40 Thieves on the East Coast in New York. And then, you had the 5 Point, district. Then you had something like the 5 Pointers and the Fly Boys and all that. I had to refer back. But, see, on the East Coast, but then, you had the Northeast and the Southeast. And people in the Southeast were being discriminated against, the segregation and Jim Crow and all that. But see, it was the East Coast. See, them same white people, the people that was on the East Coast, they moved to Chicago. Them same 40 Thieves, the 5 Pointers, they moved to Chicago. So by the time African Americans moved to Chicago, then you hear about the South Side Chicago, West Side Chicago. You know, the history of Chicago before World War One. You know, after the Civil War, the pre-Civil War history of America, the post-Civil War history of America after the Civil War. World War One, World War Two. But see, during World War Two, all these white women were working in factories while all the white men went off and fought in the war. Well, see, a lot of African American women had to do the same thing. While all these African American men were sent to World War II, they were working in factories. After World War II, they had all these African American men and women left the South and went up north. They went to the north, Detroit, went to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, Indiana, Indianapolis, Indiana, and went up north. And other cities. But Chicago, Illinois, was a destination for a lot of African American men and women. And when they got to Chicago, it wasn't no like the white American rolled out the welcome carpet, the red carpet for a welcoming mat. They had a hard time, man. It was a lot of discrimination. It was a lot of discrimination in Chicago. See, the Imperial Chaplains, the 14th Street closed. See, it was a lot of discrimination. And so the vice lords, you understand, when they got out of jail, out of that juvenile detention center, the vice lords, they ended up having conflicts and altercations with the Imperial Chaplains and with the 14th Street clovers, and the Egyptian Cobras, who later became the Mickey Cobras in the history of Chicago. On the south side of Chicago, had people moved from the south. King David Barksdale came from Mississippi. King Larry Hoover came from Mississippi. Was born in Mississippi and his family moved from Mississippi to Chicago. Jeff Ford, Chief Malik, his family moved from Mississippi to Chicago. A whole lot of people, families left the South. You understand? Left Louisiana, left Alabama, left Kentucky. They moved from Missouri, moved from Kansas, moved from Texas. Went to Chicago, moved from Oklahoma, from Nebraska, moved to Chicago. And a lot of people got killed in Chicago. I have to be honest. A lot of people whose families moved from Chicago, moved from the South, they ended up getting killed. Their families got killed. Just being honest. That's the honest truth. Because during that period of time, the 50s and the 60s, instead of fist fights, they started using guns. And when you start using them guns and them firearms, people got killed, man. In the history of Chicago. And the vice lords, eventually, the Imperial Chaplains became the Imperial Vice Lords. And the 14th Street Clovers in the history of Chicago, the 14th Street Clovers, they became the Insane Vice Lords. That's what you see today. The Imperial Insane Vice Lords today. They still today. But that's the history of Chicago. Just like the boss pimps in the history of Chicago. Well, see, the Blood Gang and the Crip Gang nowhere in the history of Chicago. The Bloodstone Village and the Limestone nowhere in the history of Chicago. They not there in the history of Chicago. See, that's them East Coast bitches. Walking around with some Cincinnati red hats and some Arizona Diamondback hats and all this, about some damn hats. And some hats and caps and all that. in the history of Chicago. What you talking about worshiping the devil. Like I've been saying, having a hard time on the street. Having a hard time on the street. Ain't no such thing as worshiping the devil. Having a hard time on the street. In the jail. Having a hard time in the jail. Can't do your time. Talking about you worship the devil. Because you lying. I'm out here on the street making sure that in the jail there's no such thing. There's no such thing. There's no such thing. No Satanism. There's no such thing putting the devil and worship together. That's a lie. That's the biggest lie I've been told. There's no such thing. God has never allowed what you see, devil and worship. You lying. You lying. So being in jail, talking about worshiping the devil, having a hard time. Having a hard time. You can't do your time, you're gonna get killed. In the jail, you're gonna get killed in jail. You're gonna get killed. That's all he's doing. On the street, having a hard time on the street, then retaliate. Retaliate. Nobody got no business talking about no blood gang, no crib gang. No such thing. Ain't no such thing in the history of Chicago. See, when you say that, when people ask me, because you see all that up there, the folk and the my people, and then you hear some talking about some my people gang, and talking about some blood gang, crib gang. Everybody that's folks and everybody that's my peoples, and they looking at each other and everybody trying to asking each other all these questions and who you want, going back and forth. Talking about the bloodstone villains and the limestone, so everybody, folks and my people, going back and forth. Nowhere in the history of Chicago. Nowhere in the history of Chicago. Then you talking about some wearing some Cincinnati red hats and Arizona Diamondback hats and just wearing hats, period. So the folks and my people going back and forth. In the history of Chicago, retaliate. Because you are doing something that's against the folks and my people. That's what you're trying to say. That's what you're implying. That's really why I'm like, everybody asking each other and going back and forth. Asking each other questions. Because nobody know what you mean. Everybody up in Chicago, they got all their influence, they got all their members in different parts in Kentucky and Missouri. All the folks got all their members in Tennessee and Arkansas and Mississippi and Louisiana. And take, so when you see somebody walking around with some Cincinnati red hats and some Arizona Diamondback hats, people ask, then they go over there with the my people's at, and then the my people standing there with their shoulder. They don't know, they don't know. Nobody. Then the same thing, vice versa. All the my people organizations, they trying to figure out what, because all they members over there in Oklahoma and Nebraska and Tennessee and Arkansas and Mississippi and Texas, they trying to figure out who are these. Over there in Kentucky, they trying to figure out who are these bloodstone villains and what's this limestone. Everybody had going back and forth. They family members all down in different places and all, so they going back and forth. See, in the history of Chicago, so who you going against? So in other words, you must be against the vice lords. You must be against the Mickey Cobras. You must be against the Black Peace Stones. Because when the Black Peace Stones, all the stones, the titanic stones and all the 21, who talking about some bloodstone villain with talking about some lines on which. So back and forth, back and forth. So eventually, you know, you had to come to a conclusion. Like, I mean, you know, what you trying to say? What you trying to say? You got some kind of problem with the gangster disciples. You got some kind of problem with the black disciple. See, that's where it comes. See, that's what it means. So you got some kind of issue. See what I'm talking about? See, you got some kind of issue with the black souls, and you got some kind of issue with the boss pimps and now the bluefin black disciple. Now you got some kind of problem. You got some kind of problem with the Latin kings and queens, the Latin folks. You got some kind of problem with the four corner hustlers. You got some kind of problem. Well, see, the four corner hustler ain't gonna hear nothing you got to say. Talking about some bloodstone villains and talking about some limestone. They don't care nothing about you, man. They vice lords. And then all them other vice lords. They don't care nothing about, you know, TVLs and UVLs and double I's and then all them gangster disciples. They don't care nothing about you, man. Then them insane gangster disciples, they don't care nothing about you, man. Talking about no Cincinnati red hats and Arizona Diamondback hats. But see, that's the point. Sometimes you have to put it to people that way, like what you trying to say. Cause see, the folks in my people, they had their issues with each other. So they be like, what you trying to say? That's really, like I said, retaliate. Something like that. Tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna get ready to end this video in about 2 minutes because it's right at 2 hours. Right at 2 hours, and it's what, 5:30 something. And then that'll get about maybe about an hour, maybe 30 minutes, possibly 30 minutes on part 2. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna get ready to end this video. It'll be right at 2. It's gonna be about 2 hours. Before I, then I'm gonna continue. Like I say, you know, all that stuff. See, that be them East Coast bitch, and then what you be trying to do, that be that devil worship stuff. Man, me personally, when I get to the root, once I get to the root of the issue, or something like that, you playing with me. Me personally, I ain't gonna get you away from her. That's what I do, motherfucker. Cause you been gone. Cause that right there, that's totally uncalled for. Ain't no such thing, no worse, no devil. I'm gonna get ready to end this video. And it's gonna be dated November the 3rd, 2019, part 1. I just gonna keep me personally. That reason why I keep repeating over and over again, retaliate.